Hello friends, welcome to this YouTube session in which I'll be discussing about the European Union and why we are discussing European Union and why it is important from exam perspective, because for the 77th Republic Day, the leaders of European Union have been invited by Government of India as chief guest. So the two leaders who are coming as chief guest are António Costa and Ursula von der Leyen. Now Mr. António Costa is also a person of Indian origin because he traces his origin to Goa. His father was from Goan origin, and Miss Ursula von der Leyen, she is a German. So both the leaders have been invited as the chief guest for our 77th Republic Day celebration, in which the theme is Vande Mataram. The President of European Council is Mr. António Costa. He comes from the country of Portugal. He was former Prime Minister of Portugal, and at present he is the President of the European Council. The European Council is a legislative organ of European Union, and it comprises of the heads of states and heads of governments of the member states. Whereas European Commission, it is the executive branch of European Union, and it is headed by Ursula von der Leyen. She is a German politician. Now they have been invited as the chief guest for our 77th Republic Day. Now here we should know that who was the first chief guest when we hosted the first Republic Day parade on 26 January 1950. So our first chief guest for the first Republic Day parade was none other than the President of Indonesia, Mr. Sukarno. So the chief guest was President Sukarno of Indonesia. Now this year's Republic Day parade, it will be for around 90 minutes, and the parade will be conducted on the Kartavya Path. Now Kartavya Path, we must know, is the new name of Rajpath. So now it is known as Kartavya Path. And the theme of the Republic Day parade and the entire Republic Day celebration will be revolving around Vande Mataram, our national song, which is marking 150 years of its origin. Now let's look at European Union and some important facts about the European Union. It is one of the most important regional organization in the world, and in fact it is considered as the model regional organization. So European Union was formed in its present form in 1993 when the Maastricht Treaty came into effect. The Treaty of Maastricht was signed in 1992, but it came into effect in 1993. So we should be aware about both the years, but 1993 is usually the year which will be asked in exam. Now where is Maastricht? So it's a place in Netherlands where the treaty was signed. So Maastricht Treaty is very important. We should know when European Union was formed and by which treaty. Now European Union is a political and economic integration of the European countries. And why the European countries were interested in forming such a union? Because Europe has been ridden with conflicts, and First World War happened, then the Second World War happened. So after the Second World War, the European countries wanted to create an association, an organization which will help in establishing peace in Europe and maintaining peace in Europe. And for this reason, for establishing and maintaining peace in Europe, the European Union was also awarded the Nobel Peace Prize in the year 2012. The headquarters of European Union is in Brussels, which is in Belgium. Now European Union is a very significant economic and political grouping, and it accounts for a GDP of around $22 trillion. The population of European Union, there are 27 member countries as of now, and the population of all the member countries taken together is around 450 million, that is around 45 crores, and it represents around 5.5% of the world's total population. Now, out of these 27 member countries of European Union, there are many countries which have adopted euro as their currency. So, European Union also creates a single market, and many of these countries have adopted a single currency also, which is called euro. So, the European countries which form part of the eurozone, that is they are part of those countries which have adopted euro as their currency, they are known as eurozone countries. And there are 21 members who have adopted euro as their currency. So, in eurozone, if it is asked in exam how many countries are there, so our answer should be 21. And from here we can expect a question in exam, because Bulgaria has recently become, on 1st January 2026 only, the 21st country to become part of the eurozone, that is, it has adopted euro as its national currency. So, this fact we should know, that Bulgaria has become the 21st country to join euro zone, right, and from which date? 1st January 2026. So, now let us look at the map of European Union, right. So, here we can see the 27 countries, the 27 member states in blue color. Now, some important facts about European Union also we should know. So, we have already seen that the population of European Union is around 45 crores, GDP is around $22 trillion. Now, two leading member countries of European Union are Germany and France. Germany and France are the leading members. Germany is the country in European Union having the largest population and the largest economy as well. Largest economy also of European Union. Overall, Germany we know is the third largest economy in the world, and it is the largest economy of European Union. France is the country with the largest area in European Union, right. So, France and Germany, they are two dominant countries of European Union, right. And the headquarter we have already seen, it is in Belgium, Brussels. Here we have the country Belgium, right. So, headquarter is in Brussels, which is in Belgium, right. The European Central Bank, which is an important institution of European Union, it is located in Frankfurt, which is again a city in Germany, right. So, European Central Bank is located in Germany, Frankfurt. And only country which has exited from European Union so far is UK, right. So, Brexit, right, through Brexit UK had exited from European Union. Otherwise, European Union would have had 28 member countries, but now because UK had exited, so now there are 27 member countries, 27. And how many countries in Eurozone? 21 countries. The latest to join is Bulgaria. Here we can see Bulgaria. So, these are some important facts that we should know about the European Union. Now, European Union, it basically has three pillars as given in the Maastricht Treaty. So, pillar 1 basically talks about building a European community. That means the focus is on having a single market and free movement of people, capital, goods and services. That is pillar number 1, European community. Pillar number 2 is to have a common foreign and security policy for all the European Union members. And pillar 3 is to have a common justice and home affairs rules and regulations for the entire European Union. So, these are the three pillars of European Union, pillar 1, pillar 2 and pillar 3. Next we come to the key institutions of European Union, right. So as I told you earlier that the executive branch of European Union is the European Commission, which is headed by Ursula von der Leyen. So European Commission, it's the executive branch and it is headed by Ursula von der Leyen as president. Then European Council, it comprises of the heads of states or heads of governments of member states. There are 27 member states, and all the heads of states or government, they are part of this European Council. Now European Council along with the European Parliament, for which direct elections are held in the member states every 5 years, and directly the members are elected for the European Parliament. So these two together, European Council and European Parliament together, they form the legislative branch. So European Commission is the executive branch, and the European Council and European Parliament, they form the legislative branch. Then another important institution which sets the monetary policy for the entire European Union is the European Central Bank, which is located in Frankfurt, Germany, right. So these are some of the key institutions of European Union which we should know. Now why European Union is very significant? So it's a major economic powerhouse in the world. After US, if we look at the biggest economy in the world, then European Union is the biggest economy, which is having a GDP of around $22 trillion. So it's an economic powerhouse, it's world's largest single market and a major trade bloc in the world. Now it promotes multilateralism to address global challenges such as climate change, trade challenges, etc. And it also engages in conflict prevention, conflict resolution and peace building, right. So European Union does a lot of good work, and at present we are seeing that the rules based world order is coming under challenge by the activities of President Trump, and European Union is actually trying to establish and try to maintain the multilateral world order, right. Now if we come to India-EU relations, the relations between India and European Union, so we have very long standing relations, and our relations are from the 1950s onwards. So European Union was formed gradually, right. When it took the shape of European Union in 1993 after the Maastricht Treaty came into effect, then we established diplomatic relations with European Union, and in 2004 we established strategic partnership with European Union, which is continuing. Now both India and European Union, we are leading trade partners of each other. The bilateral trade was around $118 billion in 2023, right. So European Union is one of our biggest trade partners, and it is also a big source of foreign direct investment into India, FDI. Also European Union is the second largest export destination for us, the first largest being the US. So we are leading trade partners of each other, but so far we have not been able to finalize the FTA, Free Trade Agreement, and for which negotiations have been going on since 2007. So there has been a very slow progress in the trade talks, but now it is expected that when the European Commission President and the European Council President, they are coming to India as chief guest for Republic Day, most likely there can be announcement on the trade agreement as well. India and EU also have a civil nuclear cooperation agreement which was signed in 2009. Now when we talk about India-EU FTA, it is being billed as the mother of all trade deals, right, because once this trade agreement is finalized, then it will account for around 25% of the global trade. So it is going to be a very major trade agreement. Now the India-EU FTA, it is known by a typical name. So it is known as the Broad Based Trade and Investment Agreement, BTIA, right. So generally we use the term FTA, but specifically the India-EU are negotiating this broad-based trade and investment agreement known as BTIA. The negotiations started in the year 2007, but they were put on hold in 2013 because of differences between both sides, and it could resume only in 2021. Since 2021, we have been regularly negotiating the trade deal, and we are very close to finalization of the trade deal. Now, if we look at the India-EU FTA, what are India's concerns and what are European Union's concerns, and why this agreement is taking so much time? So, if we talk about European Union's concerns, European Union is concerned about the protectionism that it says India is practicing. Protectionism basically means that the government of a country will protect its domestic industries by charging higher tariffs, by imposing higher duties on the imports, right. So, what European Union wants? European Union wants that India should reduce its tariffs, right. Then, so European Union has a problem with protectionism by India. European Union also wants greater market access for its products in Indian markets. Now, there also like some sensitivities there, because India feels that in certain sectors it needs to give protection to India's farmers, India's industries, etc. Now, another major issue between India and European Union is about the protection of intellectual property rights, and this is very evident in the field of IPR stands for intellectual property rights, and it is very evident in the field of medicines. Right. So, we know that India is third world's pharmacy, and India is leader in generic medicines. So, the problem here is that European Union says that it's big pharma companies, right, they spend millions of dollars into research and development of new medicines, right, and for which they should be allowed to price them higher. But when Indian generic drug makers make cheaper copies of these drugs, so there is a loss for the big pharma, loss for the big pharma. So, that is European Union's contention. But what is Indian government stand on this? So, Indian government says that we appreciate that research and development is taking place, and the big pharma is spending a lot of money, but at the same time we also want affordability, right. We also want affordability of drugs, right, and because in India the purchasing power is low, so we want that our people should be able to purchase those drugs. And sometimes the big pharma companies, what they are doing, they are going for evergreening of patents. So, for example, the patent is there for 20 years. So, once the patent term is going to expire, and then the generic makers, Indian generic drug makers can make copies of those drugs. But what the big pharma companies will do, they will just make some minor changes in the medicine and they will again repatent it, right. That is known as evergreening of patents. So, India's patent laws does not allow it, right. Specifically, one section is there which is known as section 3 clause D of Indian Patents Act 1970, right. It basically does not allow evergreening of patents. So, any kind of new patent will be allowed only when the company will be able to show that there is significant improvement in the effectiveness of the drug, and not just by making some small changes, minor changes in the drug composition. So that is something of a tussle between India and European Union. So basically we can understand that in case of generic drugs versus branded drugs, this is an issue between European Union. European Union says that innovation should be protected, whereas India says that affordability of drugs is equally important. Equally important, if not more so. Important, right? So this is a major issue between India and European Union, right? This intellectual property rights debate. So on one side you have innovation, on the other side you have affordability. So on which side will you lean, right? So both sides have their fair arguments, but Indian government is firmly on the side of affordability, right? So coming back to this again, so there is this protectionism of or protection of intellectual property rights, which is a major issue between India and European Union. So these are the European Union's concerns. What are India's concerns? So the Indian products, European Union is the second largest exports market for India, but Indian products also face lot of non-tariff barriers, right? Quality controls and various other sanitary, phytosanitary measures, etc., right, which curtails our market and our products to be easily sold in the European markets. So that is a concern. So India wants the easing of non-tariff barriers by European Union. Then India also wants that the European Union, which has banned Indian generic drugs since 2015, because there were some quality control issues which were found with the data on clinical trials by some Indian generic drug makers. So that is why European Union has banned Indian generic drugs since 2015. So this is also an issue where India wants revocation of this ban. And India is very much interested, and India is a leader in the services sector. So India wants that in the case of services sector, there should be a liberal labor market for the Indian professionals. So that is what India also wants, that a liberal labor market should be there for the Indian professionals, right? But what European Union says? European Union says that you do the free trade agreement with us, but for the Indian professionals, their free movement, you should sign it individually with the member states. Now it is not acceptable to India. If the entire deal, the trade agreement can be signed with the entire bloc, right, as a grouping, then why we should be negotiating for the free movement of labor with each individual country? So that is a no-no for us, right? So these are some of the major issues that India and EU are facing. Now if you look at the challenges in India-EU relations, right, so we can say that one is the FTA negotiations progressing very slowly. Hopefully it will be concluded soon. Then there is also divergence on Russia-Ukraine conflict. India is maintaining a neutral stand. India is saying that we are on the side of peace in the Russia-Ukraine conflict. We are purchasing discounted Russian oil. But the European Union has taken a very strong stand against Russia, right? It has imposed sanctions on Russia, and it also wants that India should also do the same. But obviously we have our own national interest, right? So there is divergence of on Russia-Ukraine conflict between India and EU. Then European Union, what it does regularly, it raises human rights issues, that it says that Indian government is not looking after the human rights, right, minority rights, etc., which India considers to be an interference in its internal affairs. So sometimes this is also a reason for friction between the two sides. Now European Union has recently planned to impose what is called the carbon border adjustment mechanism, right? So how this is the challenge we can see. So CBAM stands for carbon border adjustment mechanism. carbon border adjustment mechanism. Now, this the European Union wants to implement, and this is basically to ensure that the products imported in EU bear a carbon emission cost comparable to the cost imposed on goods produced within EU. Right. So, this is the carbon border adjustment mechanism. So, what the European Union is saying that we follow very strict environmental norms, but other countries are not following very strict environmental norms. So, the cost of production in EU will be higher than the other countries. So, that is why when a product is coming from the other country, what we will do, we will impose a carbon border adjustment mechanism to make the cost equivalent, right. Obviously, countries like India are not happy with this because they feel that it will put their exports to EU at a disadvantage, right. So, this is the carbon border adjustment mechanism, and now EU accounts for 20% of India's total exports, right, and out of these 20%, 25% of our goods will be impacted, right. So, total our exports to EU is around 20% of our total exports, 20% goes to EU, and out of this 20%, 25% will be impacted by carbon border adjustment mechanism. So, it will be a significant, it will have a significant impact on India's exports, right, especially in the steel and aluminium sector, right. So, this is also a challenge that we have already seen. Now, finally, what we need to understand is that the European Union, President of European Union Commission and President of European Union Council, by the way, they are equivalent positions, right. It is not like one is above the other, they are equivalent position. So, the Commission President is Ursula von der Leyen and António Costa is the European Council President, and they are on a 3-day visit to India. State visit 25 to 27th January, right, in which they will be the chief guest for our 77th Republic Day parade, and also they will be chairing the 16th EU India summit, right. So, 16th EU India summit will be there in New Delhi. Now, we should also remember that the 15th summit, the summit before this, it happened in July 2020, right, and it was hosted virtually because of COVID-19, right. So, it was hosted virtually, COVID-19. So, these are some of the important things that we need to know about the European Union and India, right. It is going to be a very important topic for this year's exam. Now, let us look at some questions. So, the first question that you have to answer, and you can write your answer in the comments: by which treaty European Union was established? Treaty of Lisbon, Treaty of Rome, Treaty of Maastricht, Treaty of Paris. You can also write the year from which this treaty became effective, right, and European Union was established, right. So, this is question number 1, and question number 2 is, where is European Central Bank located? Is it in Stuttgart, Brussels, Berlin or Frankfurt, right? It is also an important institution. So, you can write the answer to both the questions in the comments. Thank you.
For more informative content, like, share and subscribe, and do not forget to press the bell icon to get the notifications.